This is Father Joseph Anthony Kress.
And this is Father Bonaventure Chapman.
Welcome to Godsplaining. Thanks to all those who support us. If you enjoy the show, please consider making a monthly donation on Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe to Godsplaining wherever you listen to your podcast. On today's episode, we are blessed and grateful to have a wonderful guest joining us. We have Sister Gaudia with us, and it is a great pleasure. We've known Sister Gaudia, or I've known Sister Gaudia for a number of years. I think Father Bonaventure, you've gotten to know her over the last few years as well, going back to even before my priesthood. That's, if I remember correctly, the first time we met was in Washington, D.C., as I was a deacon preparing for my ordination. So the fact that I'm a priest, I very much attribute to her prayers, because there's no reason that I should be a priest at all. You know,
it's your fault, sister.
Yep,
it's
you did it.
You
did it. But we have an awesome topic and very excited to talk about, to talk to Sister today. But before we dive into Divine Mercy, Trust, and all those fun things that we have on our schedule today, I want to allow Sister Gaudia to introduce herself. So Sister Gaudia, give us a quick little introduction for all of our listeners. Who are you? And a little bits about your life and who you are.
So I belong to the congregation of our sisters of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy. Those of you who met Sister Faustina, at least on prayer cards, they should recognize immediately, because that's so characteristic. We still look like her. And after the first sentence of oh, perfect, what a relic.
Always carry with me. Always carry with me. I can't pray every morning that she makes me a good and holy Dominican priest. So carry on, sister.
She's still working.
Beautiful. Nah. Yeah, brotherly love. So after the first sentence, probably you hear a heavy Polish accent, so I don't have to say where I was born, raised, and where my heart is. It's fully Polish, and I wish to congratulate you, fathers, on the courage to have such a guest speaker, because I cannot guarantee if everything I will say is going to be really English and it's going to be totally sound with,
No, I love that. That's what we're looking for.
He barely speaks the language, so it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's only Father Gregory who's really good with the grammar, and Father Patrick Mary's, don't worry, we're backbenchers here, so we barely get sentences and adjectives matched up. So
you make me feel very comfortable. Thank you.
Yeah, and if it gets super difficult, we'll just start speaking in out of grammar as well, as I just did.
Thank you. You see, I didn't even notice it. So I live in DC for 6 years now, or almost 6 years, and we have our ministry. We're based at St. John Paul II National Shrine, which is a very unique place and a young place. So it's still growing. It's still searching for its identity and the ways to minister people in the most efficient way. But I'm very grateful to the Knights of Columbus who run the shrine, that they recognize that JP2's spirituality, the deepest root of the deepest current of the spirituality is mercy. So that's why they wanted the Mercy Sisters there. So me and Sister Donata were the first two to come 6 years ago.
Yes, and it's a beautiful shrine, and the mosaics in the chapel are gorgeous. I like to go and sit by Faustina in the back corner. They're beautiful mosaics. But the shrine is gorgeous. Your ministry there, as you say, is continuing to grow in a search of identity. But it's already got an important part at 3 p.m. every day. People can tune in live and to hear the sisters, Sister Ina and Sister Faustia, and others praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet. And that if people haven't tuned into that, it's not just the Divine Mercy Chaplet prayed by the official Divine Mercy Chaplet sisters kind of thing. So you're getting the authentic, the real deal, all the graces and all the blessings. But there's a beautiful meditation beforehand that the sisters prepare, each one of the sisters, and then which slides immediately into prayer. So it's a little like preaching and kind of then prayer focused on specific things, and then Divine Mercy Chaplet. And that's a glorious thing. I do. I try to go on Fridays in person or other times, but during the day in the afternoon, it's a perfect time, the 3 o'clock hour, to take a break from reading German texts and doing my dissertation work, and just to tune in with the sisters for 15 minutes and to pray at my desk. And anyone can do this. It's absolutely gorgeous. So you're already, and then there's other. Well, I'm just propaganda for you. For you all. So carry on. But sister, this is
a promo video for Divine Mercy Sisters. Is that what we're doing?
They do great stuff there. The 22nd, evenings with Merciful Jesus.
Okay.
What a holy priest! What a holy priest!
No, it's fine. It's only because of Saint Faustina, so I have to give her all the credit for these things. But sister, we are here to proclaim JP2 and this sort of and your shrine, but mostly to talk about the fact that most people would know Sister Saint Faustina for her diary, of course, and then of course the image. That's probably people see the image of Jesus with the blood and the water coming from his heart and the hand up in the air. And then the bottom, there's a little slogan on that that said, "Jesus, I trust in you," and that is just the most important phrase ever. But we thought we'd talk about that. So tell us about this Jesus, this trust, and the image, or anything you want to talk about with that.
That's a big one. Maybe I'll start with this recollection that comes to me now when I wasn't a sister yet, and I came to Krakow to the Divine Mercy Shrine, where that's like the capital for Divine Mercy devotion.
Oh yeah.
And I entered the chapel where we have the image of Merciful Jesus, and I'm a painter by profession, so it's very hard to please me, like visually. And I remember I wasn't a fan of that image at all.
Sister Faustina wasn't either.
She wasn't either, yeah. This is what we have in common. So I entered the chapel, and I was sitting there in silence for I don't know how long. It was long, but I didn't feel it was long. But I remember how everything was changed after this time in silence in front of that image. It really, you can really connect with Jesus, and you really feel his gaze upon you, and you feel his presence. It helps so much. I mean, I've been studying also how to write icons, /paint, however you like to say. And we've been taught that every icon is like a window to eternity, that you don't worship icons. Of course, you don't worship paintings, like all of this nonsense that they try to say about Catholics, that, you worship things. That was never true. But it's really a window through which we can connect better with eternity, with heaven, with the invisible reality. And it helps me so much. And why do I speak about it if our topic is trust? Well, I love how logical that image is, that you actually read it as you would read a page. So you start from top to bottom in our Western way. That's how Western languages, you read from top to bottom and from left to right. And you just start looking into his gaze, or he's in my room, so I'm just looking at him right now. So you just start with the gaze, then you see the hand, the other hand pointing to the heart, the rays, you look at the white gown and the black background, all of these details, one after the other, finishing at the foot. And only then there is Jesus, I trust in you, which is so logical. You get to know the person, you start to look into his eyes, have a conversation with him, or just silence time with him. And then he blesses you, and you realize that his blessing is then there upon you, no matter who you are, what's your condition today, how you feel today. He's always there, unchanging. That's what I love about paintings. They don't change. If it's painted once, that's how it's going to stay forever. And so he wanted it to be a painting. He wanted this to be something unchangeable. You paint it, you fix it with special chemical things, there's no return, or you're going to spoil the whole structure. And so only as we go through those stages of getting to know him as he is, only then he says, okay, so what you gonna say now? What's your answer?
Yeah,
And I
WWJD.
love it.
No, WWUD. Yeah.
What do you say now?
WWUS. Yeah. Well, I love the painting reference, and it doesn't change because paintings are an art. I mean, why do you go to art museums? Why do you look at good art? To be changed, to have it change you. If you're in front of beautiful art, a beautiful piece of work, the idea is that it's to make you a better person. Rainer Marie Rilke talks about this, that you're standing in front of a beautiful image. You must say, I must change my life because of it. And there are some good paintings, but that icon itself, or the image of divine mercy, the idea is that just as God is unchanging, but we are changing in terms of converting to him, this image of the unchanging God in Jesus Christ is to change us. And you walked us through this process of first the person and then the response. I love that. But the important point of him not changing so that we can change, that there's a stable point, and it's a stable point of mercy, of asking us, do you trust in me? Yeah.
Sister, I have a feeling we're going to get back to maybe discussing the painting a little more, based on your expertise and your background. But I want to take a slightly different approach. As you mentioned earlier, you are Polish, and a big fan of Polish. I have Polish heritage in my family, so love that.
Our last names are almost the same.
They are, but
yeah,
we'll go with that. Your experience of being a religious in Poland, growing up in the country that is kind of cloaked in JP2, in Divine Mercy, in all these fantastic Polish saints of the 20th century, and then finding yourself in the United States for the last 6 years, and engaging in making this message of Divine Mercy known. And helping others. And so what I would like to know or hear your experience of is between those two very different contexts of evangelization, how has the message of Divine Mercy, or the message of trusting in Jesus, how has that been consistent for peoples from so many different areas? And I know you've also done some work in Spanish-speaking countries and all over the world. How is it that simple message, those few words, and I know in Polish it's only 3 words, but how is it that those three words resonate so deeply across all different contexts and all peoples?
On one hand, we could ask, how is it that everybody reads the Bible all over the world and it works for everybody? I would say the same with mystics, and Faustina is a mystic. So even if the mystic is taken out of the context of its country, it's okay, because you will maybe not get the details as easily as we do when we read her diary. Of course, the details, the background of the story is easier to understand for us, but the main message, this is like so universal. I mean, who doesn't have this hunger for God, like the true God, the God present in your life? The first things what you notice when you open the pages of the diary is that he is present, that he really wants to have this very personal relationship with you.
Yeah.
There's this supernatural thing that's happening in her life, that she actually sees him and talks to him like we can talk to one another now. And that's like something to be jealous of. Of course it is.
Good
and that's
jealousy, holy jealousy.
Oh my, definitely. And it brings people to religious life. Like I'm the example. I was so jealous, so envious. And
really?
I was the same, of course. I'm like,
wait, so
had it? Why can't I have it? Can't I have it?
Yes.
Well, the only way to get it is then to start dressing like her and show up in the same exact convent and do that, right? That's how that works.
Imitatio Faustina. Imitatio Faustina. Yeah. Which is fine.
I mean,
St. Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And so you can imitate Faustina in this one.
No. Of course, that's like just joking, but joking, not joking. Seriously is that we should, the desire of this personal, intimate relationship with God should increase in all of us when we open the pages of the diary. And of course, it's not about entering particular religious family or even entering religious family at all. It's about doing God's will. It's this is where our happiness is, where His happiness is, when we will actually do His will, and that's trust. So. Yeah. Also, many people do not connect that trust doing God's will. But when you go through the pages of the diary, it's basically every page is those two topics: trust God's will, and yeah, that's the main line.
Well, I think your emphasis on the personal aspect as well, because as a mystic, she has this personalistic, Christocentric kind of thing. A lot of mystics and a lot of Catholic theologians and saints focus on Mary as a devotional kind of thing, so as a Marian devotion. But Faustina's always struck me. I mean, I found her when I was an evangelical Christian for all sorts of an interesting story I won't tell. But she was approachable, I think. In one way, she's extremely unapproachable for evangelicals because it's this Catholic nun. But on the exact other side, she's entirely approachable because Protestants are really a little cagey about Mary initially, you know, but we're not. Protestants aren't cagey about Jesus. They think they love him, and love him more than we do, and they don't. But here is Faustina, who, I mean, Mary, of course, shows up. She's in italics in the American edition. Jesus gets the bold and print, but Jesus is really the center of it, so that it's mercy, but mercy with a face, as you mentioned. I love the discussion of the icon. The message of trust and mercy is after, of course, it's the person, so that this isn't some abstract concept of mercy that we might find in theological conceptions of, oh, God is merciful, blah, blah, blah. It's mercy in an actual person with an historical event, with blood and water flowing forth from his side. With the story of the cross, with particular time at 3 p.m. on Friday. All these things, they're all personal details. So I think the fascinating part about Faustina is that she's so Christocentric in her mystical spirituality that she need not scare away those who are non-Catholics even. And I suspect she's brought more than one person to the church. And maybe you've had experience with Protestants who also are open to her because of her Christocentrism. But that mercy is a face. Mercy has a face. That's one of her, strikes me as really beautiful selling points and main themes.
Yeah, you put it beautifully, Father. Yes, working at the shrine in Poland, in Krakow, at the Divine Mercy Shrine, or I'm actually returning now. These are my last
promotion.
United States. So
well, safe travels and all of that, but we'll have to follow up on that.
Okay. So I would meet quite a few groups, like this international and interreligious groups of people who would come to the Divine Mercy Shrine, because Divine Mercy is very attractive for many. I remember not only meeting Protestants, but also Muslims and Jews, and having great conversations with them. And they would love the diary. They would emphasize different things, right?
Right. Sure.
Yeah, I remember the rabbi from Jerusalem. He was convinced that I entered religious life because of Faustina, that Faustina attracted me. And I was like, no, her diary, but actually Jesus, the Jew.
Your friend and mine. Yeah.
So, but yes, I just love how universal that is, and that we can meet on the common ground of the idea of God as mercy. Of course, there's a different understanding of it, and this is where we start the dialogue. We have something in common, but then there are differences. So let's just talk about it. What is the difference? Like how differently we perceive God's mercy. But I guess like nobody would follow God who's a tyrant or who's justice itself.
Yes, just pure justice.
Well,
But not only.
Yeah. Some would follow.
Justice and mercy always have to be together. Okay, they always have to be. But we do, it. Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned a little bit ago is how, the mercy and what did you say? Trust in God's will. are on every page of the diary.
Yeah.
And how that just keeps coming up as the two major themes from the diary: trust in God's will. How do those play together? Or how does Jesus speak about those to Sister Faustina, and what is that? Because I think there's a lot of times that there is this breakdown of trust because people think God's will is out to destroy them, or it's God's will is too hard, or he's demanding too much. How could he want these types of things? So thus then they don't trust God for a variety of reasons, or, you know, free will comes into play, or there's evil involved, or what. So like in the life of or in the writings of Sister Faustina, and how you and continue to live that, really, and your entire congregation takes on this message of trust and mercy. But how does that work? Those two things work together because they're so ever present in the diary, between the trust and God's will.
Yeah, that was my discovery, my life discovery, you know, to see that trust and God's will, that's doing God's will, that's trust, that's equal trust. Because when we speak about trust, it seems to be very lofty. It's just, okay, do I trust him? Do I feel that I trust him? It's something that doesn't have this flesh and bones. When you know that trust is actually doing God's will, it's very concrete. Because you know, okay, God's will be concrete, concrete things he's expecting from me. Like there is the concrete plan of love, and it's not like a closed plan that doesn't give me any freedom. And of course, I am invited to be creative in all of this.
Yes.
But yes, there is. He, in his great love toward all of us, he imagined this world perfectly. Like all of us, we fit together so perfectly. Like you two fathers being together in the same congregation with your characteristics, with your gifts and your vices, maybe maybe at least one.
Sister, you know us too well.
Perfectly, you know, that's what I love about God creativity and his plan for our lives, that we are so imperfect, but this goes together so well. Like when you start having this approach of trust that this is actually the best what can be happening, that God is pure love and mercy plus justice, but justice is good. Justice is good. That he, in his divine love for us, he planned everything in a perfect way. So even if something is hard for you, it's only to make this beautiful diamond as that you are more shiny, right? And you need a little bit of how do you call those?
Polishing,
and
little finishing touches. Well, and sister, some people might say, well, it's easy to trust, and obviously it's a nice message, and look at sister, she's smiling, she's happy, and everything's going great, and you know, all these sort of things. But what about when suffering comes? That's when I have, you know, I don't know if I can trust him in this sort of thing. So, which to my mind, I say, well, that's, were you really trusting beforehand? It's always easy to trust when things are good, but what's the message for those where trusting becomes most difficult, you could say, with suffering? How do you trust God, or what does Saint Faustina, or what do you have to offer to people who are struggling with something, or difficult times, and things aren't rosy all the time? Certainly they weren't for Saint Faustina, but maybe trust and suffering. How do you think, what's at least a start of a thought about how we engage trust in those situations?
Again, a story comes to me when I was a young sister. Of course, I still am.
So that's now. Yeah. Yesterday, sister.
Okay, so this happened last week. Okay.
I received a letter. Okay, not I, but I was in charge of responding to the letters of English-speaking pilgrims who would write to the Divine Mercy Shrine in Krakow. And there was a lady who wrote, I believe, from Scotland. And she had a little bit like similar approach like you had, Father, but based on her own story. So she said, okay, how can I trust if my life is, and she started describing what she's going through. And it was super heavy. And I remember like facing the mission of responding this letter. I was like, I felt so little, so small. I just couldn't do it. So I went to an older sister. I told her, what's the letter about? And what would you advise? What should I tell her? And she said, tell her, encourage her to meditate on Christ's passion, to have those moments in front of the cross, just to think about his passion. And that was her response. That's it. And what a wise response. Like, yeah, that's the only response to our suffering. And Jesus gives us a great example of how to trust in that situation. Like when he says, like, into your hands I commend my spirit, he's talking to God who's absent. Like these are the cold hands of the Father who abandoned him in the moment when he needed him the most. That's what he's going through. This is what he experiences, right? Of course, that's not the true, but that's how he feels. And the same with our sufferings. Like we feel like he totally forgot about us. Like our lives are out of his control, and there's definitely like just darkness, and there's no end to that suffering. This is how it feels when it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's got to be the only answer. What would you say to someone? You know, I mean, no one wants easy answers. Suffering, I think, as you grow in life, you realize that there's some aspects and tragedies in life that don't have an answer. They don't have a response. They have an embrace. They have a love to them, and that's the gift of Christianity. In Judaism, you could say in Job, when there's suffering, the response in Judaism is, "Where were you? How you don't understand?" And this, whereas the Christian response, of course, has an element of that, but no, he comes on the cross, and it's again this personalism, Faustinian personalism, we could say, which of course is very near and dear to JP2's heart as well. The two of them were so close on this. But that, yes, meditating upon the cross, really, you take it or leave it. I mean, you either go with him or you don't go with him. But for those who have faith to see it, that's the only possible answer to give. That's the answer Faustina has. She doesn't expect Jesus to give her answers to all sorts of things. She wants him. You know, when she says beautiful line or something like, "I could do with you, I could suffer anything," is one of her lines. It's absolutely gorgeous. And it's hard to explain to someone that that's true. But everyone knows it's true, because when you're in suffering, you don't want a piece of paper that says, "Oh yeah, here's why," this sort of thing per se. You know, you want a person, right? And that's what's given. So I think you're dead on about that. Surprise, of course, no surprise there.
You know, I remember, again, one of my older sisters once pointed out to the crucifix that we wear. It's usually they are very big crucifix that we received for our first vows, and they are pretty loose on our cape, so they sometimes will go like that, and they just turn and spin around, and you cannot see Jesus anymore, just the back of the cross, and that's very actually helpful to many meditations on relationship with Jesus, and what is
sin, grace, virtues, vices. Where's the cross for me today? Forward or backwards.
The Dominican approach. What I see when it's happening, we have this very romantic and female approach. First is, like he's looking into your heart. So when he
my gosh.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That
never thought about that.
That was not where we were thinking.
Fantastic. I like that, though.
Keep going.
Cute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the crucifixes spinning around, he's looking into your heart. Oh, my goodness. Okay, keep going.
And the other reflection that often comes to me when I look at the back of the crucifix, the empty part of the side of it, I know that's for me. And I think we cannot. The Christianity, our Catholicism, our faith cannot be, this, how would you say, in English, when you add too much water to something and it loses its taste.
Saturated?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
It's watered
Saturation.
down.
Yeah. So people want the real thing. They want to feel the taste of what our faith is really about and what we are ready to die for. And I think, I mean, there are so many people dying for their faith now. And we just we are happy to live, well, happy or not happy, I don't know sometimes. Sometimes I'm very worried that I live in very peaceful surroundings, because I actually would be grateful to be threatened at every step of the way, because that would wake me up. You know, we fall asleep in discomfort so easily. But the thought about that this side of the cross is for me. It's not only thinking about martyrdom, but it's actually thinking about everything that's crossing my plan, my vision of this day even, not thinking the big way, but just the small plan for today. And it will be crossed in so many ways and changed, not according to my plan, but according to, hopefully, his will. And
I mean,
yeah.
There's that understanding of like how dangerous comfort is and is scary. It can destroy so much of us. So I think having that kind of little gut check every day of reminding yourself that there's not a day that goes by where there isn't a cross presented to us. And will we embrace that? Will we allow ourselves to be united to the Lord as he is nailed and pierced in that way, or do we just kind of run to the comforts? Sometimes they're a little more explicit, but there's really and truly not a day that goes by where the cross isn't presented to us. So
not for me, unfortunately. I live a beautiful life. Yeah.
Sorry, Father, but just as you said, it's again, these are those unifying moments. So again, this cross has two sides, and one is for me, and I experience it, and I'm there nailed, even though you cannot see it, but that's my spot on the cross. But I always need to remember he's there with me on the other side.
Right.
But when you are crucified, you actually can't see the other side, right? So he's there, he's present, he's supporting that cross, he's carrying the heavy lift. You don't see it, and you might feel totally abandoned and forgotten, but he's there, and that's just for trust in you.
Well, sister, I mean, I feel like we can continue to talk for another 90 minutes on this, but we're going to close it down. Sure. I know we've gone.
We'll do another one.
I was like, we'll plan another interview, maybe when you're in Poland. But that's one question I have before you go, and it's just a quick hitter question, top of your head, first thing that comes to your mind. Which Polish dish or Polish meal, Polish dessert are you looking forward to the most now that you're going back to Krakow?
Oh my, that's a hard one. Can I be very honest with you?
Talk to me.
I don't have one. Seriously, I love the food.
You choose all?
Our Vietnamese sister cooks the best.
All right, there you go. Well, that's fantastic. Sister,
for those who want... No, Vietnamese food.
Yeah, sister, for those who want to get involved with I mean, those who want to join your order, fantastic. They can look at hopefully there will be some watching that. But do people just get involved in Divine Mercy? What are the easiest ways, first steps that might take from this to learn how to say, Jesus, I trust in you? First places to go, or any recommendations for people to start with Faustina and Divine Mercy?
Well, I would start from the diary, but I wouldn't start from page 1. Not recommended. I would start from the last 2 notebooks, preferably. So seriously, from the end of the diary, it's most mystical and profound and very touching. I guess very.
But the dance scene, and when Jesus comes and she's trying to go away, she's trying to ignore Jesus, and she goes to the dance, and everyone disappears, and he says, "How long will you be putting me off?" That is just, I'll never. That's 9, I think, number 9, I believe it is.
Yeah, that's early on.
There's a lot of purification on the first pages, and also like she is searching for who she really is and what is really happening, and a lot of suffering in this very young age. So I guess it's pretty heavy for the beginning. So I would start from the end, and then if you are already caught into the the content of the diary, then you want to know the beginning of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would definitely recommend the talks of our sisters that are easily to find on YouTube, because makes the diary more approachable when you listen to a living person.
And that's you can go to JP2 Shrine, and you can find the Evenings of Merciful Jesus, or you just type in Sister Gaudia and you'll get tons of smiling faces and with her sisters, and Sister Ina and Sister Faustia.
But America did it to me. It was smiling all the time. So
no, we can't stop it. It's just we have to. All pictures, everything. But it looks you're doing great. You're basically an honorary American as far as I can tell, smile wise.
Thank you.
Well, thank you always to our listeners for listening to this episode of Godsplaining. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like this episode, subscribe on YouTube or on your podcast app, and leave a 5-star review for us. If you'd like to donate to the podcast through Patreon, please follow the link in the description or the show notes. There you'll also find a link to our shop for merchandise, as well as other information for in-person events that we will be hosting. And a sincere thanks to Sister Gaudia for joining us this episode.
Enjoy.
And just know, sister, that you have our prayers as you make that transition back to Poland. But please just know that we're supporting you, and we're grateful for all that you've done and the sacrifices you've made over the last 6 years here in the United States. And we entrust you to the merciful Jesus as you continue on going back to Krakow and everything else that's ahead of you. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Please know you're in our prayers.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Your podcast. You're doing a great job, Father. So congratulations.
Thank you. And to our listeners, know that you are in our prayers, and we ask you to continue to pray for us. Thank you very much, and God bless.